Vivienne is a fashion designer, sports fanatic, and a young woman in politics who was born in Kisumu County.
I was born in Kisumu County. I had a pretty good childhood. Brought up, my mother was very strict, so we raised as a good girl, more or less. In school, I was always like, a good student, among the top of the class. It was always expected. So, if you don't make it like to top 3, everyone is like, what's happening? What happened? So there was always that expectation to do well. But it's because, I come from a family of achievers, people who, like, if you're not achieving, what are you doing with your life? So there's always pressure to perform because there are people like engineers, lawyers, as in every arena that someone chooses, they're excelling. So if you're not excelling in yours, whatever it is you're doing, there's always question marks. And because of that, I've always been a very driven person. Very driven to succeed, very driven to be a better version of myself, with just the belief that where you are now is not where you'll be, in the coming days. My family moved to Nairobi when I was in high school. So that's how we came to settle in Nairobi. And of course, after I finished, I did not do my university in Nairobi. I did my university education in Eldoret, Moi University. But then after I graduated, of course, I started working in the city. So I settled in the city. I worked for Kenya Airways in the marketing department for a time. And that's where I really honed my skills. I told you I'm a communication specialist, so that's where I got my skills sharpened. It was also a very exciting experience. You learn a lot and you get to interact with a lot of people from very many different countries and cultures. So it really shapes you.
Vivienne says she drew her inspiration in fashion design from her mother.
When I was growing up, my mom used to make our clothes. So at home we had a sewing machine. We had, fabrics, patterns, threads, all those things that fundis use. So it's inspired me. But at that time, I didn't start at that time. I just used to, look at them and be like, oh, okay. In fact, at that time, it didn't look like it was fun because everybody else, all the other kids my age, they used to have their clothes bought. But for us, my mom used to make our clothes. So it used to look like, where I was not being bought. I only came to appreciate it later on in life. So even how I got into fashion was, my mom got unwell. She was diagnosed with cancer. And it was a very aggressive cancer. So from diagnosis to her passing on was exactly 1 year. And it didn't give us time to get used to the fact that, she was no longer there. So my way of grieving and dealing with her loss was to try and remember something we both enjoyed, something that would make me think about her, nicely or in a good way. And I remembered fashion. So I went back home. I got the sewing machine. I enrolled in school, in a fashion design school here in Nairobi. And then I studied fashion. And then I started just making clothes as a hobby. And from there, of course, it evolved into a business, which I'm very proud of and I'm very grateful for, because it wasn't expected. When I started doing it, it wasn't expected to be what it is. But I am happy that I pursued it. I am happy that it's something that I got involved in. It was around the time after my mom passed on and after I started doing fashion. And then as the business grew, of course, I kind of just transitioned. into fashion. But also at that time when I was leaving, the company was going through a really difficult, I don't know if you know, Kenya has had some serious financial issues. So it was around the time also the company was restructuring, and they gave options for people, if you want to leave and do something else. So around that time is when I left and transitioned into fashion, which is what I was doing until I got into politics.
A fashion brand termed as bold and glamorous is inspired by the African culture.
It's been one of the most exciting journeys. Has its challenges, but it's also been very fun and very fulfilling. I actually had a chance to represent Kenya in the Thai Fashion Week in Thailand, in Bangkok. It was hosted by the Queen of Thailand. So it was an amazing experience. And also as a fashion designer, I've gotten recognition as one of the top 60 female entrepreneurs in Africa by a foundation that's run by the former First Lady, Grasa Machel. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been a huge learning curve and some really, really exciting experiences. But it's something I totally enjoy. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. Yeah, no, not even politics, even though I enjoy politics. So I still do the business and I still do politics. My brand is eponymous. Eponymous means we share a name. So my fashion brand is called Vivienne. Yeah, that name Ta is very significant because in Swahili Ta means lamp or light. So I actually see myself as a light. And again, I'm going to refer to the Bible. So the Bible says no one lights a lamp and puts it under a bed or under a table or under something. Typically, when you light a lamp, you put it on a high place so that it can light up the room or the house and everyone can benefit from this light. So I see myself as that. That whatever abilities or talents that I have are not for me. They're not for my benefit. They're for the benefit of those around me. Because you are not given skills or talents to benefit yourself. It's for others to benefit. And as long as you can see that, it means then you're living within your purpose. And it's important. I'm very grateful that I know what my purpose is. I'm not struggling to think, I need to be like so-and-so. No, I know what I'm called to do. I know what my purpose is. And I'm pursuing it every day. My brand is actually very much inspired by African culture. So, music, color, just Africa as a whole. And that's where I sort of draw inspiration. That's where I draw the creativity. This doesn't mean that we only use kitenge, fabric, because a lot of, even though that's where most of the inspiration comes from, but remember, because Africans value color, we are very big on color, it means I can still do other things, not just kitenge. I actually have clients who I do uniforms for and things like that. So it just depends on the needs of the client. And many times, actually, we sit down and explore design ideas, explore the goals of the client before we embark on a project. I design clothes for both men and women, specifically people who are fashion savvy, who want to look good and feel good, and they're fashion conscious, and they want to present, a good image of themselves. You're going for a wedding or you're going for a special occasion and you want to look the part. That's my client. You want to buy a gift for someone special to surprise them or something like that. That's my client. Basically, someone who appreciates creativity, someone who appreciates fashion, someone who's looking to support, made in Kenya, something local made. Because you have the option of buying, imported clothing, for example. That's an option. But you choose deliberately, I want something made locally. I can't wait to grow the brand beyond the borders of Kenya, beyond the borders of Kenya. I see myself, in the next maybe 5 years or so, being like the Gucci's and those big fashion brands, but now from Kenya.
Her political journey began after her recruitment in the Miss President show under one of the local television stations.
My journey in politics is the most interesting story you've ever had in this life. So in 2018, the European Union, I think with Canadian High Commission and some local partners here, they call Media Focus, they had this project for Kenya is ripe for a female leader. So they came up with a show called Miss President. And they sent out invites for people to apply if you think you can be the next female president of Kenya. And because I've always been passionate about leadership and governance, I just had never done anything about it, but it's something I was passionate about. I applied. I didn't think I would be picked because I had no background in politics or governance. My background was purely fashion and communication. But when I was shortlisted, and I went for the audition, and I made it into the show. So in 2019, the show aired on KTN, Miss President, and I didn't get very far in the show. Like, I did not make it even to top 10, I left a little early. But the interesting thing is, it's from the show that I got recruited into a political party. I got recruited into ODM, and in the beginning I was hesitant, like, I'm not really sure this is what I want. But when I met with the officials and they told me about the party, I was convinced that, okay, this seems like not such a bad idea. So I got involved. I quickly got involved in the party. I got involved in the party activities. I started serving in the party secretariat. I got to meet very many people, in the political arena. And over time, it grew my confidence that, I am capable. I am able to do this. It's not as scary as it looks, from the outside, because now I was inside. So that's how my political journey began. Expectations was violence. Because it's what you see in the media when you hear politics and what you see, the videos and things that you hear about political rallies and politicians. There's always just like conflict. So I was a bit not sure. Am I sure I want to get into this murky waters? Plus, everything you hear from people is, oh, politics is dirty, So that made me a bit hesitant. But when I entered and I started interacting with people and realizing they're normal people. They're normal people. They're just in a different arena that most people don't know about. So it gave me confidence that, oh, it's not that bad. We can actually do this. You can actually succeed in this. Yeah, and of course I was inspired by, the women who've gone before me, the Martha Karuas of this world, the Charity Ngilus, Lina Jebi Kilimo, women who've been in those spaces and they are thriving. So you tell yourself, if they've been here and they are making it and they are still here, then even me, I can. And I'm really happy that we're having a lot more women on the ballot, running for office, even in appointive positions. It's a good thing. We are not yet where we need to be, but it's progress. I haven't moved yet. And I'm looking forward, of course, to my party leader being elected the next president, and hopefully a lot of us being involved actively, in the running of government and all that. And just making a difference, so not just at my community level or Langata level, but in the country, because we've been yearning for this kind of change for a really long time. So my political story can never be told without mentioning Miss President, because it's like how I got ushered into the political arena. And of course, ODM played a very big role. The Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna, who's running for Senate now, has actually been like my mentor, because he's the one who like walked me through getting into the party and all that. So it's been quite interesting. Very, very different from the world of fashion.
Absolutely.
Very, very different. But like I told you earlier, you need to be able to adapt. So if you're moved from A to B, when you get to B, just adapt. Because it may be a different environment. For you to survive and for you to thrive and succeed there, you need to be flexible enough. If you're too rigid, you might not make it. So you need to be able, where you're placed or where you get an opportunity, adapt. If there are skills that you're lacking, that you need to learn. So you need to be open to learning new skills, gaining knowledge every day. Because remember, none of us is born walking or talking. You learn. A human being is basically, you're born like clean slates, but everything you learn how to talk, how to walk, how to eat, everything. So if you don't know about sports and you're thrown into a sports environment, learn. Don't resist, because the only way you will succeed is by gaining knowledge, learning, building networks in that place. Same thing. In ODM, I'm a life member of ODM, and then I was also spearheading the Young Women Caucus, where we basically champion participation of young women in the political arena within the party. So get more young women involved. What inspired me to do that is, of course, to have credibility. I think where we are at in Kenya right now, we have a lot of people who are not credible. Not credible in character, not credible in their business dealings, who join politics, just to preserve, their wealth and their, not wealth gotten in not very clear circumstances. So my perspective is different. I think elective leadership is about service. It's about representation. It's about being a voice to people who cannot speak for themselves or do not have the opportunity to. So I really wanted to be a representative of the people, and also just to serve, make a difference, introduce legislation that would make a difference in people's lives, because that's what a member of parliament basically does. Your role is primarily legislation and representation of the people. So because my passion is in leadership, of course I was hoping to be able to serve in that capacity. It didn't happen at this time, but it doesn't mean that I cannot get another opportunity maybe to serve, maybe in a different capacity. But we'll see how it goes. But yes, that's what inspired me, just wanting to demonstrate that good leadership is possible. A lot of people say that MP won't even help my life. It's not true. If you get a good leader, they will impact your life positively. They will make a difference for you. If your issues are water and security and education and whatever else it is up to your leader to take up those, to carry your hopes and your aspirations and try and make a difference. I think campaigns and just basically political activity is not very friendly for women. Not to mean that you cannot survive or you cannot make it, but it's just a rough terrain. It's a rough terrain. There's a lot of betrayals, a lot of backstabbings, a lot of, lies, and that kind of thing. But there are also good people. There are also good people. There are people who will step up, who will follow through, who will do what they say they will do, who will not necessarily try to swindle you or clean money out of you. There are those who do that, but there are good people also. But you see, to find them, you have to be in that space. You have to be there. You have to step up and say, here I am, for you to be able to meet the different kinds of people and now decide who you'll work with. But it was an amazing journey. I have no regrets. Would I do it again? Absolutely, I would. I would take the learnings and maybe not repeat the same mistakes that I made during this time. But yes, I'm actually rooting for more young women join. Don't let your fear stop you. Don't let the perception of what politics is keep you. If you're passionate about leadership, if you're passionate about your community, about service, about making a difference, and you think this is the way to do it, jump in.
Branded as Tayamta by her constituents, Vivienne shares with us her source of motivation.
We're here for a time. You know, you're not in this life indefinitely. you're only here for a duration of time. Now, in the duration of time that I have been given, I need to have an impact. I need to be able to influence. I need to be able to make a difference. So that keeps me going. Knowing that, okay, whatever I need to do, I told you I know what my purpose is. So whatever I need to do, the work that I have to do, I have to do it. So despite the challenges, despite, circumstances and things that happen, you have to keep going because you have work that has been assigned to you. You have an assignment that you need to complete before your time is done. And you don't know when that time is. You don't know when the bell will ring. So in the time that you're there, you have to do your best. You have to do your best to make sure you're making a difference. You're impacting people, you're talking to people, you're encouraging people, you're inspiring people. Because the only thing, people remember how you made them feel. Yes. People won't remember, I don't know how many cars you had and how many houses. If you hear eulogies a lot of times at funerals, people will always say, alikuwa mtu fulani, they did this, or they did this for me, or they did, it's usually the experience that people are left with. So what experiences are you sharing with people?
Cited in her final remarks are words of advice to the public.
My advice would be invest in yourself so that you can build yourself in various things, so that you don't have just maybe one line or one income stream. Even if you're working, like you're employed, try and diversify. Try and diversify so that you have more income streams. And to do that, you have to invest in yourself, knowledge-wise, skill-wise, because people only pay for value. Nobody will pay you to chill. There has to be some value you're adding to someone or an organization for them to pay you. So find out what are the things you're passionate about, what are the things you're good at, and build on them, because talent that's not developed is not good enough. Usain Bolt might have been talented in athletics, but if he did not invest in training, and all that, and building himself to be the best, he probably would not have reached there. So always challenge yourself to be the best at what you're doing. Be the best at what you're doing and get involved. Be aware. Be aware of what's happening around you.